Whoop whoop! Howdy y'all, and welcome to my channel. I'm Alex, I'm new to this, and I think I have some potentially deep lore insights from the Shadow of the Erdtree trailer. Ooh. And I don't think these have been discussed, so bear with me as I overanalyze symbology that I believe, personally, might come into play in the DLC come June. Or I might be wrong and I'm a fool. We'll find out. Number 1. The identity of this guy is no major secret. So this painting is the only one featured in the trailer. We see an old man alongside a younger woman. Many have already noticed that the man from the painting is the same person as this unfortunate fellow over here. We can clearly see that their robes and the emblem around the neck are the same. Still, we don't know who it is, and if I'm not mistaken, we haven't seen that sigil before. But I am almost certain I have figured out who it is, and I think it's pretty clear. First, let's take a look at the Sword of St. Trina. Silver sword carried by the clerics of St. Trina, inflicts sleep ailment upon foes. St. Trina is an enigmatic figure. Some say she is a comely young girl, others are sure he is a boy. The only certainty is that their appearance was as sudden as their disappearance. Enigmatic appearance and disappearance? Sudden? What does the torch say? Candlestand torch that burns with a light purple flame. The carvings depict St. Trina, but in an adult form, somewhat unnervingly. We know that Miquella is going to be heavily featured in this expansion, and that St. Trina is heavily implied to be one of his personas, and perhaps a very recent one if St. Trina's appearance was that sudden. This makes me very confident that the maiden alongside this man is none other than St. Trina herself. We see that the Medusan-like hair on the torch has its forehead covered, same with the veil shown in the painting. We see a single eye, specifically a third eye, wide open. Guess where else we see that wide open third eye? Bam! On our mysterious dude's necklace.
Okay, so he's related to St. Trina, doesn't mean you know who he is.
Wrong! I think. Let's read the description of Fever's cookbook. A record of crafting techniques left by a man who was utterly captivated by St. Trina. He continued the search for her in his slumber. The apostrophe indicates that Fever is the name of the author of these cookbooks. They teach us that he searched for St. Trina in his slumber. You know what? I think he might have found her in the Shadowlands. Now, there could be some cheeky wordplay at play here. Is Fever looking for St. Trina in his own dreams? Or is he looking for her, St. Trina, in his, Miquella's, dream? I'm under the impression that we're gonna find out that this guy's name is Fever, and if I were to guess as to any other descriptors for his boss battle, I would say the sacrifice might just be the case.
What do you mean by the sacrificed?
Go read Berserk. You have time. At least watch the 1997 anime adaptation, it's pretty good. Number 2, the Lion Misbegotten boss. So we have this boss reveal, and it's honestly difficult to comprehend physically what's going on, but it makes a lot of sense when you realize it's a bunch of people stacked upon each other. This has been a classic in Souls games. Furthermore, the face seems like it is a manipulated puppet, and it is obviously crucible coded, and virtually certainly misbegotten at that.
What do you mean by crucible coded?
Well, let's read up on what is said about the crucible in some of the item descriptions. The crucible tree armor states that it holds the power of the crucible of life, the primordial form of the Erdtree. The aspects of the crucible incantations tells us this is a manifestation of the Erdtree's primal vital energies, an aspect of the primordial crucible where all life was once blended together. The crucible scale talisman says it's a talisman fashioned from a scale that embodies the aspects of various creatures, said to have grown on the human body long ago. A vestige of the crucible of primordial life, born partially of devolution. It was considered a signifier of the divine in ancient times, but it is now increasingly disdained as an impurity as civilization has advanced. The winged misbegotten ashes tells us that it is a spirit with an aspect of wings which takes flight to loose arrows from its bow. The misbegotten are held to be a punishment for making contact with the crucible, and from birth they are treated as slaves. The Old Fang says this is a rarely seen specimen of a beast fang. These multiple overlapping fangs grow from a single root. Perhaps they're a vestige of the primordial crucible.
Look at those fangs.
So, what do we truly know? Well, the Erdtree came from the crucible, where all life was once blended together. By blended together, we mean the growing of scales, feathers, teeth, and horns. And we can clearly see that in the misbegotten, Placidusax, the Omen, and potentially the ancestral followers, who are described as horned folk who eschew horned folk who eschew letters in metalworking. The ancestral followers keep their distance from the Erdtree, awaiting new buds. They are certain to sprout from their very flesh and indeed their souls.
Wait, weren't we talking about the boss?
Well, yeah. And I think now we can clearly see what I mean by crucible coated, right?
Uh-huh.
I noticed something else while staring at those muscular, supple thighs. A. These are big boys. B. Their skin color is grayish, similar to the ancestral followers. C. Since the ancestral followers follow ancient stuff, and that they are crucible coated, which is primordially ancient, perhaps they worshipped the crucible back in the day?
Uh-huh. Okay, keep going.
So we also have this quote from Miyazaki from a recent interview. In fact, the Shadowlands are where Marika became a god and where the Erdtree was born. Of course, there was a culture there before the Erdtree, and that lion dance comes from this culture. A culture of ancestral follower proto-humans, perhaps? Note that we can see statues of the said lion in the trailer, and it has the crucible-coated horns. So this land is a land that worshipped the crucible, and that it was the norm before Marika arrived. If the Shadowlands were where she first set foot, perhaps it indicates that for the Erdtree and greater will to arise, that remnants of the crucible worship had to be subdued, banished, or annihilated. Evidence points to that being the case, and despite the Golden Order's attempts, the influence of the crucible still manifests itself. If I were to guess, the ancestral followers are awaiting new buds. Maybe that will reform the original crucible? Who knows? Was a crucible even a tree, though? A crucible in metallurgy is a ceramic or metal container which metals or other substances may be melted or subjected to very high temperatures. It's possible that the crucible wasn't a tree, but was really just this primordial soup from which life arose. Could the Elden Ring be like a seed? Is this a Neon Genesis Peter Gabriel reference? Time will tell. Number 3. Why do the ancestral followers eschew metalworking? Okay, so this is pure conjecture and theory crafting, but in the trailer, we are first revealed to the metal wicker man when the narration says the following.
They were never saints. They just happened to be on the losing side of a war.
This boss is also heavily crucible coated, with horns present in its hands and around the emblem face. We also have references to the fell god of the fire giants, look at those orbs, and the giant's head. Perhaps this sigil indicates that they were once more connected, but what we do know from the fire giant boss battle is that the fell god seems to bestow power from self-sacrifice. So what if this was a desperate attempt for those on the losing side of a war, sacrificing their enemies or maybe even themselves to the flames to create an avatar capable of defeating Marika and her forces? Sounds pretty metal to me. LOL. Number 4, Mesmer's sigil. Okay, so there's a lot to cover over here. But first, here's a surprise straight from Miyazaki. The character of Mesmer shown in the key art is a good example. He is another hero. Huh, that's a little surprising. But sure, we can see his sigil better in the collector box, and while there is a lot, I'm going to focus on these two main elements on the left and right. On the left, we have what seems like a mix of the ancient dragon cult emblem, but also the frenzied flame? Perhaps it is both of them conjoined? On the right side, we have this circular twin braid. Are they snake twin Ouroboroses? Not entirely sure there. Both of these are new sigils, correct me if I'm wrong. The braid indicates Mikola, and we can see a similar design on the Erdtree soldier helm. To quote Muriel, Pastor of Vows,
"Heresy is not native to the world. It is but a contrivance. All things can be conjoined."
Note how literal this is, especially with the clear implications that Marika and the Numen came from another world. I think that Mesmer might be the embodiment of this, the conjunction of all that is to the Golden Order, heretical, while also simultaneously embodying Mikola's own interpretation of the Golden Order. Radagon's Rings of Light say it's one of the incantations of the Golden Order fundamentalists, a gift of gratitude to the young Mikola from his father. And yet, the young Mikola abandoned fundamentalism, for it could do nothing to treat millennia's accursed rot. This was the beginning of unalloyed gold. By abandoning fundamentalism, Mikola rejects its dogma against heresy, and Mesmer seems to be the living embodiment of the rejection of heresy, or as some might view it, the embracement of blasphemy. Meanwhile, Mesmer has references to basically everything fire related. Snakes, specifically twin snakes imagery, dragons, Felgod flame coloring to his fire abilities, a trident that seems similar to Mogs who worship the formless mother, a blood flame god. Let's not forget that Millennia and Mikola are also twins. The yellow eyes seem to be more dragon communion based, but the left-sided part of his sigil seems to contain the frenzied flame.
All things can be conjoined.
Interestingly, let's check up on Mikola's needle, one of the unalloyed gold needles that Mikola crafted to ward away the meddling of outer gods, capable of subduing the flame of frenzy if inherited, allowing one to cheat fate and avoid becoming the Lord of Frenzied Flame. Could Mesmer's sigil indicate Mikola's confidence in being able to subdue the Frenzied Flame and combine it with the Dragon Communion and other flame ideologies? Why is everything Mesmer so Mikola coded? P.S. You have time to read 30 plus years of Berserk before Shadow of the Erdtree comes out. It's heavy, but I only read it within the past few years, and it was insane realizing how much it inspired basically so much of the media that I love. 5. The meaning of Mesmer's name. Mesmer is clearly related to mesmerize, which beyond being a great System of the Down album, is defined as to hold the attention of someone to the exclusion of all else, or so as to transfix them. The archaic definition says it is to hypnotize someone. Where does the word mesmerize come from though? I did some cursory research and I came across this. I put the link in the description, but let me read about mesmerism. Mesmerism, also known as animal magnetism, was one of the most popular medical theories of the late 18th and 19th centuries, named after its chief theoretician and practitioner, Franz Anton Mesmer. Mesmeric theory was based upon two ideas that had been in circulation for centuries. The first was that there were invisible, naturally occurring forces, such as the force of gravity, that keeps planets in their orbits, that can also be held responsible for the animation of living bodies, such as animals and humans. The major breakthrough of mesmerism, and the one for which the term mesmerism is today most well known, came in 1780, when a disciple of Mesmer, the Marquis de Puységur, discovered that he could induce a state of artificial somnambulism, what we would today refer to as a trance, in those undergoing mesmeric treatment. In this trance, patients displayed what was considered to be remarkable behavior. Peasants could speak perfect aristocratic French or German. They could conduct everyday activities with their eyes closed, and the mesmerist could actually direct the flow of a patient's thoughts. In other words, the Marquis had discovered hypnotism. This discovery led Mesmer to speculate that the energy forces he had theorized earlier also bound all things together and enabled them, animate or inanimate, to have some communication with each other. While in the trance, it was as if the somnambulist was in communication with some higher plane of existence. This idea caught fire in the imaginations of many philosophers of the time, such as the German Romantics, who felt that the artificial somnambulism reflected the ability of all human beings to transcend to a higher plane of unity, where all things were one. Crucible coded, crucible coded, crucible coded! Throughout the early 19th century, then, one can find references to mesmerism in a vast array of literary works. In all of these works, mesmerism is depicted as a strange, sometimes evil force that has the power to change and manipulate the human soul. Reminder that the bewitching branch tells us, the Empyrean Micula is loved by many people. Indeed, he has learned very well how to compel such affection. Okay, well, that is all for today. I really hope you enjoyed my content. I've been putting off trying to make videos like this for a long time. Perhaps I should make more. If you like the music, that is from my friend Bjorn Johansson. I linked to his album in the description. I also put a link for my Patreon down there. Look, if I could consistently make videos like these more often, that would be fantastic. So if you really like this, help me get there. That would be great. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching my first video on Elden Ring lore. I hope I don't sound too insane, and I hope that we will find out some interesting answers come June. So, auf Wiedersehen, meine Freunde. Tschüss! Go read Berserk.